Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast. Today we're talking to Kevin Tai. Kevin is a former teacher for 13 years who pivoted to photography in 2020. During that year, he started doing headshots for the unemployed and had a baby. Today, he loves his community, helping others, and telling awesome dad jokes.
You are the kind of person who wants to improve the lives of others, but you need to take pride in your everyday actions. You Are a Philanthropist believes that every act of goodwill deserves to be recognized as philanthropy. Each individual action you take impacts another's life. Believe that what you do makes a difference. So call yourself a philanthropist and start a ripple effect of generosity that boomerangs back to you. Go to youareaphilanthropist.com/shop. Style your outside to match your inside. Choose a t-shirt, hoodie, or bag to show how much you love giving to others. That's youareaphilanthropist.com/shop.
Hey y'all, I just want to remind you that I need you to subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. If you're enjoying it and want more conversations like this and want to help people get more involved with philanthropy, please subscribe, rate, and review. I want to thank you to the people who have already rated this podcast 5 stars. Please click to rate it 5 stars. And here is some awesome reviews. I love hearing the different stories from a variety of people's personalities. We all can contribute with the strengths we have in making the world a better place for all of us to live in. Here's another one. I really enjoy this podcast. It's encouraging to see that I don't have to be a multimillionaire who created a philanthropic foundation to impact people. It's my small gifts of my time and resources that add up. I am a philanthropist. And here's another. There are opportunities all around at an early age to remind us to look out for each other. It's a lifelong journey of seeing the opportunities and acting in them. Thanks for a great reminder. Listeners, please do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review right now so more people can hear more from us and learn more about philanthropy.
Welcome to the You Are a Philanthropist podcast with Jen Klein, a certified fundraising executive and philanthropic entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you to make a difference in your community and our world. Jen believes all acts of kindness matter, and this show is designed to help you take pride in your everyday actions of improving the lives of others and making a change in the world. Now, here's Jen.
Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it very much.
I'm so glad you're here. I saw on LinkedIn what you're doing for the unemployed. You're sharing your skills with people who don't have the opportunity right now to afford professional photography. And you've been doing this for, 3 years now, haven't you?
Yeah, about 3.5 years, 2.5 years. Yeah.
That's great. And so when's your next round starting? Soon, right?
Yeah, it's in about 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today.
Awesome. So can you tell me how you got started with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a teacher for 13 years, right? And I taught international students, which was amazing. I got my master's degree in it. And when the pandemic hit, everything shut down, right? No more international anything at all. So this was very difficult. And I was already photographing on the side. I call it Disney World money. A few $1,000s gets you to Disney World. That's really nice. But then I really needed to pivot and do something that's more long lasting, that's not dependent on the global economy, so I can control myself. And so I decided to run my own business, and we couldn't really do anything with people at the time. So, mass photography wasn't really there. So I instead decided on with a bunch of other photographers across the nation to photograph people who are unemployed, because everybody got laid off at that point. And our job was to give them a great experience, give them a headshot, but really is to give them that little pep in their step to be more confident in a time where everything was all over the place. So,
How did you get started in photography? That's a skill set I do not have.
Oh, Oh, this is fun. So when I lived overseas for a little bit, as a teacher, I went overseas to Korea, and it was a little bit lonely. So I had all this money, right? Just graduated from college, made a lot of money. I was like, what am I gonna do with all this money? So I got Legos, as an adult. I just bought all the Legos that I could, everything I can, and then I started photographing them for fun. I just bought a small little DSLR camera that was like, I don't know, $200 or something, and it started photographing Lego figures, photographing toys, and then learning lighting, learning aperture, learning all this different technical stuff about photography. But as a 4-year-old playing with Legos in the middle of the night after classes.
I'm sure you and your son bond over Legos today.
Not yet. He's only 2.
Okay.
He's 25 months, so he would probably eat the Legos,
Yes, that's dangerous.
which is not good. Also very expensive to go to the ER.
Yes.
But we will someday for sure.
Yeah, good. I actually had the opportunity to travel to Asia for fundraising, more than about 7 years ago for a few times. So I know how beautiful it is over there. How long were you there for?
Almost 5 years, or about 5 years.
Wow, that's terrific. So you mentioned that you started with Legos and you built up to people over time. And today run a photography business full time, and the name of that is Three Circle Studio.
Yep.
And where are you located?
I am just north of Boston in Malden.
Malden. We had mentioned, we had talked earlier before we started recording, and you mentioned you also do other philanthropic work in Malden. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a teacher, there wasn't a lot of time to get involved in the community. In high school, I did a lot of that, working with the homeless, working with people in prison, working with the immigrant community, LGBTQ youth. And after I came back to the United States and started teaching again, it was just way too much, because the harder you work, the more you have to work because of students, all the grading and stuff. So, but in Malden, I started to learn that there were homeless shelters and like organizations that help with people who have food insecurities. And this is something I never really thought about, I never really knew. And so one of the homeless shelters reached out to me and asked if I could photograph one of their events for Christmas so they could raise money. And they had a budget, and it was a small budget. And I was like, I'll just do it for free, because these are the things I care about, helping the people in the community, helping the people, the people in my city to have homes, to have food, to just be able to go day to day, every single day, and have some dignity. So I volunteered for them. This was back in 2020, December, to photograph the Christmas event for free.
Wow, that's terrific.
I've been doing it ever since.
Terrific. What organization is that?
That's the Malden Warming Center.
The Malden Warming Center. Wow. Well, I'm happy to hear that you have more than one way that you're giving back. And I love that your career in teaching was also a service activity and change making to make the world a better place. And you started in high school. I started doing volunteer work in high school too. Is there anyone in particular that really influenced your life to get you started way back in high school? How did you get involved in work way back then?
It was a lot of different opportunities that just came up. But I think probably one of the most important people in my past was so I moved to Malden when I was about 1 year old. My parents were refugees, and I didn't have any English language ability at the time because we just spoke Chinese and Vietnamese. So I had a neighbor, a Jewish neighbor. She passed away about 20 years ago, but she grew up during the Depression. She grew up during the time of World War II. She was a teenager during the Depression, and so she was kind of like my grandma. And I would visit her as much as I could, every single day if I could. And she would just talk to me about what it was like back then. And she talked to me about how it was important to take care of others. It was important to put others before you and to make sure that people are safe and to make sure that they know they have dignity. As someone who grew up during, World War II and being Jewish, she definitely had a perspective on life that could have been very negative,
Yeah.
but she really saw the good in other people, and really saw the opportunity to help others as much as she could, even at her old age. And she influenced me and taught me that. So around when I was in middle school is when she passed away. And that's when I started to understand what all the stuff that she was saying. Because as a kid, I didn't know what that meant. But in middle school and high school is when I had the chance to go and volunteer, to learn, to educate others about people who are marginalized. And that's always been really special to me.
Wow. What a beautiful story. I got chills thinking about your neighbor, and how, as a kid, she had an impact on your life. Just chatting with her over many generations of age difference, different life circumstances, and yet you bonded, and she made such a great impact on your life. That's really beautiful.
Oh, and her husband, her name is Elizabeth Silverman, and her husband always played me in Scrabble, and I always lost. It wasn't fair. English is my first language, so and he never let me win. So yeah.
You have good memories.
So now I never let anybody else win when we play games, even kids.
Oh, one of the reasons why I created this podcast is to really empower people to feel like they're making a difference. And I was wondering if you could share what your advice is for people who are maybe nervous or don't know what to do, maybe don't even have those role models that you had. How can they get started?
I wouldn't change the world right away. I think that's very daunting. I think when people want to do things, they want to do it big. They want to do it well. They want to do it perfectly. I think it's something as simple as finding something local to do, and something that doesn't have to be a passion. It doesn't have to be really like, I love this. This is what my life goal is, and I want to change the lives of others. Working in a soup kitchen, working with the high school students and talking to them after school programs, YMCA. I'm on the board of the YMCA, and even the YMCA has volunteer opportunities, whether it is to tutor somebody, to work in the food pantry. Even the library has opportunities to help others with ESL classes sometimes, or reading to the elderly, those that don't have access to the children all the time, and shelters for animals. The dogs are in cages and they do the best they can, but it's always wonderful to have other people around to play with the dogs, to walk them. And so there's many different opportunities in a lot of different places to kind of contribute your time, especially if you don't have money to contribute. And sometimes it's just sharing with others. So start small, go with a friend, and just find something local. And again, it doesn't have to be changing the world and doing these grand things and donating thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. It could just be an hour or two a month to just listen or to help others to so that they could do their jobs better, right? And it's also the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, all these things that doesn't require necessarily a lot of commitment. And we can start there, and then really figure out what is it that we do love, and then expand and then contribute further.
Wow, I just love how you highlighted so many different important nonprofit work that there are available, and that it can be such a small thing. And I know you would agree that when it's a small thing, you realize how wonderful it is, and it's contagious and it's exciting, and you want to do more because it is so rewarding to see the people whose lives you're impacting. And as you said, or animals are
Yeah,
so important to take care of, and they have so much unconditional love to give to us that, particularly if people are lonely or don't have as much social contact, getting out there with other people or animals can really lift your own spirits.
absolutely. And I think also, I know some people say like don't publicize on social media the good things that you're doing. I've always been in the opposite mindset. Tell people what you're doing. Post on social media, some privacy things, of course. So you don't want to like take pictures of all the guests and stuff like that. But definitely let other people on social media, your community, know what you're doing. And I think we should do this because we need encouragement to continue to do it, but also it could encourage other people to do it as well. And maybe even join you and make the experience even more fun. And so, post it, take pictures, talk about it, talk about how it affected your life, talk about how wonderful it is, or maybe how difficult it is as well. And get the support of others in the community, in your own tribe, your own family, your own friends. And maybe at some point you want to do stuff you don't want to tell other people, but I think to get that going, I think we need the encouragement. So
I think that's such a great point to have those important conversations, and volunteer work can bring so much meaning too. It can change your own heart and see the world from a different perspective. And you can plug you into more gratitude in your own heart, and more thankfulness for what we do have,
yeah,
and what we do have to give. As you said, you don't need to have millions. I know there are some guests that I want to have on my show or who have been on my show that said, I am not a philanthropist. And I think that's sad, because I think everyone has the opportunity to be a philanthropist if they want to be. If they want to, as you said, just do 2 hours a month. I know for me, one of the rewarding things I do is for 2 hours every other month, I pick up groceries from my neighbors, from about 20 of my neighbors, and bring them to the food pantry.
yeah,
And it's one of my favorite things to do. I pump the music in my car. My neighbors thank me. I thank them. When I pull up to the food pantry, the volunteers and staff thank me. And it's just a
yeah.
wonderful community atmosphere. And I honestly wish it was more often. I wish I got to do that every month. But I think the food pantry, it's a small food pantry, and they get so much, they get like 5,000 pounds of food on one day, because there's all these other people who are doing it. So they don't necessarily need or have the capacity to get more food in their small food pantry, because the community has just rallied around them. So I just want to share that, because it's a small way that exemplifies how a lot of people can make a difference. Many hands make light work.
And I think also like think about it now, like it doesn't also have to be directly helping the guests either. If you have a very specific skill set, you can also help. Like I think they say like helping build efficiencies and volunteering your time to help with the staff, or to give knowledge to the volunteers, or to provide the workers and the volunteers at the organization capacity to continue to keep doing what they're doing. And I think that's also something that is important as well, that we sometimes forget, is that administrators and volunteers also also could use help as well. So if there's an opportunity to do that, to help the organization directly from the administrative perspective, I think that's also another way to volunteer.
Yes, definitely. And if you're between work too, like some of the people that you serve, taking headshots for them, they can gain skill sets through volunteerism, or be able to have that social contact that maybe they don't have when they're home
Yeah.
applying for jobs. So it is beneficial for people who are also unemployed and looking for work and need to have that extra time. As you said, I think it was so interesting what you talked about the challenges of being a teacher and all the work that's involved with that important work. And I think teachers and healthcare workers, particularly, are service oriented in their work. And maybe they don't see themselves as philanthropists too, but in small and large ways, they're making quite an impact on the world.
How would you define philanthropists?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I believe that anybody who gives any amount of time or financially to not just nonprofits, but just everyday activities, spreading kindness is a philanthropist. So I found through my own research about what it means to be a philanthropist that the dictionary tends to define it as giving away millions. And I think that's the common perception that Melinda and Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, who started the Giving Pledge, and all those people who joined them that said that they would give away a significant portion of their wealth before they passed, are the only types of philanthropists out there. And I have heard it said, well, there's everyday philanthropists. But I feel like the word everyday kind of minimizes what people are doing to make an impact. So I just like to call everybody philanthropists, all from Melinda Gates all the way down to people who are giving 2 coins in the offering plate or to the nonprofit, like Jesus had said about how it's really about giving from the heart. And so I don't know. What do you think about that? Would you agree that that's a good way to define philanthropy?
Yeah, I think you brought up something interesting where it's like the everyday philanthropist minimizes the what people are actually doing on a day to day. It's almost like a redundant way of saying it. So yeah, I think and you're right. Like really, it's giving from the heart. Like you give it because you want to,
Yeah.
as opposed to you have to. Yeah, I've never really been the fan of like forcing people to do volunteer work.
Yes.
I love the companies that pay people to do volunteer work, and in the sense that like you can volunteer on your work time, but in terms of like forcing people like, oh, you have to go to this event and you have to kind of give your time. I think that is disingenuous. But yeah, I think people give when they want to, and people give how they can. I think that's the most important thing.
It's such a good point because I actually wrote a blog post about obligation being the opposite of generosity, because I feel like obligation kind of limits you from this, really large way that you can support your community. And for example, I have a podcast guest who over 10 years has raised $150,000 for Dana-Farber. His name's Mark Rosenblum. And he is most passionate about cancer research because of the impact that cancer has played and played in his life. And for me, cancer research has not been a high priority for me. So I still give to his fundraising activities, but I see myself as more interested in poverty alleviation, in mental health services. And those are the areas where I give higher because I don't feel as convicted about cancer research as some other people. And that's not to say cancer research is not important. And I'm so thankful that Mark does that work and what an impact he's had. I don't want to minimize that contribution at all. But for me, in my heart and where my heart is at, I have different interests.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I said earlier, like to not feel overwhelmed, give what you can and just do just that little bit. Your skill sets, your time, your money, your whatever it is that you're providing for others. I was asked a long time after this. I was probably 17 years old, and it's like someone asked, like, can racism ever be eliminated? Right? Can poverty, can food insecurity ever be eliminated? And my answer is like generally no, not really. I don't think it can, but at the same time, it's like I can't do everything. I think that's really what it's like. I can't do all of this, but there's different people who care about different things for the same issue, and like food insecurity, as an example, like helping people in poverty. There's those who need to work on the legal level, the political level, those who worked in banks to give money away. So it makes it easy for people to get homes. The people who are in construction, learning and building homes at a much faster clip so that it's less expensive. Those who are very passionate about financial literacy will also need to help the people so they can hold on to money. Job, career coaches who help out with getting them confidence in getting the job, but also to negotiate their salary. And then you also need people at the food pantry, just giving them food so they can live on a daily basis so they can have that. Or organizations that provide cars and free repairs to single mothers, as an example. So like we're all care about different things, and we all care about different things at different levels. And we should celebrate everybody who is working towards that. And you give a little bit to your friend for cancer research to donate there. And then, but there's also other people working on different other aspects, like
Yes.
working with the children, right? And dressing up in costume. My friend does, my friend's on a 501st for Star Wars. I don't know if you know that. Like they dress in Star Wars costumes to go to charity events and give people this happiness by being different Star Wars characters.
Chewbacca, my favorite.
Yeah, so there's people who do Chewbacca. There's people who are like shorter and they'll do things like Wicket. People dress up like Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia or General Leia. So there's all these different ways that we can contribute to the same cause without having to just do it one way. And I think that's very important to recognize and understand too. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you. I remember one of my podcast guests, Jay Foss, had this great image that I had never heard before, but he said was very common, where there was someone who saw a lot of starfish that had come up onto the beach. And he was taking as many starfish as he could and throwing it back in the water. And someone came along and said, well, why are you doing that? You'll never be able to pick up all these starfish and help them. And he said, I made a difference in just one starfish.
Yep.
And Mother Teresa said, if I can't feed 100 people, then let me feed just one.
Yep.
So I'm curious, what is your vision? I ask all my guests this question. What is your vision for a better world?
Vision for a better world. I think it's just so important that people appreciate each other for where they're at. I think that's one of the most important things. So the ability to listen and the ability to ask questions, and then see dignity in every single person, whether or not we agree with them. And I don't think we should ever agree with everything that anybody is. I don't agree with everything that my wife does. Same the other way around. And it shouldn't be that way. But at the same time, we are able to sit down and understand and listen to each other as human beings with the dignity and the empathy of where they're at now, not what we want them to be.
That's beautiful.
And if we can do that, I think there's a much fuller, more colorful version of the world. I know we want to expect certain things and we bring our own life experiences, but sometimes people are just where they're at and we just have to meet them there. And whatever it is that they need at that moment in time is something that we should be able to give. And sometimes that's an ear, and sometimes that's money, and sometimes that's resources or skills. And so whatever that is. And so what I do is I give them a little bit of that dignity in the photos, in the photographs, whether they're doing full portraits or whether they bring their families in for for a Christmas party, or just be able to capture something like that for them so they could have something beautiful that they could hold on to, physically hold on to, and share with others. That's sometimes what they need and what they want. And so that's what I'm able to give. But whoever and wherever you're at, to listen, to empathize, to share with others.
That's beautiful. It just reminds me of so much peace that we can have in the world when we're being empathetic and being honest and sharing from our hearts. And especially this time of year where it's the Christmas season and where we hope for peace on earth, um, goodwill to men. It is a time where we can really slow down and be more appreciative. I love that you use that word. One of the things I recommend, and that one of my podcast guests, John Fisher, had mentioned, is turn off the news, because there's so much
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
negativity on there, and you think that everybody hates each other. But when you get around people in your everyday life, you realize you have so much in common, and it doesn't seem as harsh as what's happening in the news. And I know that that's not true for everyone, particularly if you think about, what's happening in Ukraine and what they're going through, especially right now during this special time of year. So I just should say our thoughts are with the people of Ukraine right now. So because you're so generous with your time of photographing people, I wanted to make sure that any local people in the Boston area could know about how to reach you, since you are starting up giving back to the unemployed in 2 weeks. If you could share how people can get back to you to be a part of that good work you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is Three Circle Studio, all words, all letters. And the event is 3 Circle / back to work, or something like that. But my contact information is on there. The hope is to contribute to 100 people, so about $30,000 worth of headshots in about 4 days. I did about 44 last year and about 40 the year before that. So it does cost a lot of time, a lot of energy, but it's amazing to do it. And last year I bought food for everybody who came in as well.
So nice.
So when they come in, they get their headshot, get a meal, they get to take home, and it's just that little bit that's something, right? And I lose money every year from this, but the idea is not to make money. And so, but if you want to contribute to this, either financially, I think that'd be great. Donations of like food or resources, that'd be great. Some career coaches are offering their time for like a dozen or so people. And that's a great partnership as well. So if you want to partner and to do this, I think that'd be really great. So yeah, 3circlestudio.com. And it's a contact form and we can reach out, and feel free to come by my studio too. There's a way to set up a time to come over and hang out on the couch and at the table, and we just chat and talk and see how we can help each other, or even just have a boba. Because anything to get a boba, come on over and we'll get one of those.
That's awesome. I love boba tea.
Yes. I'll take it every day if my doctor didn't say that I should be not drinking so much sugar.
Yes, it's nice and
Exercise
sweet.
more, don't get diabetes. You're okay.
Well, Kevin, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today and hear your perspective and hear the good work you're doing. I'm going to make sure that the website to contact you is in the show notes and on my website. And I would love to hear how people collaborate with you, because seeing more people put good into the world makes me so excited. And thank you again for all the work you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for highlighting all these people. I think it's wonderful to hear all the different perspectives and stories of others and what it means to them. So that's great. You have a wonderful platform here.
That's so kind of you to say. Thank you.